Welcome to Saturday, March 6th edition of Game Day Wrap-Up. Along with Mike St. Green, I'm Cameron Irvine. Another great day of SFL action is in the books. It is the 13th game day of the 16th season, and we're halfway through Week 7. We start tonight with Denver holding on to beat Portland in an instant classic. That game had it all, Mike. Denver dominated the first two quarters almost, and then Portland pulls it out. They take a 17-16 lead into halftime and then came up just a few yards short as Denver holds on to get the victory. Your thoughts, Mike, on the game?
Yeah, Cam, you basically took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say this game had a little bit of everything in my opening statement, but I'll tell you one thing that was interesting about this game, interesting stat or interesting the way it played out, considering the stats. Portland came into this game only giving up like a little over 61 yards per game rushing. And I know that's, Denver's strong point. We know McChesney came in with 850 yards rushing, leading the league in rushing. But I did think it was pretty interesting that Denver said, hey, this is what we do best. Go ahead and stop us if you can. And I think McChesney had over 30 carries in this game, 186 yards, got to over 1,000 yards for the season. I just thought it was interesting the way that Denver decided to attack Portland's rushing defense and that vaunted front seven that they have.
I agree, Mike. I thought it was interesting that they, I think possibly last week played into that a little bit. Miller threw 5 picks last week. And I think Denver probably thought, they're a really good rushing team, but we got to give our MVP the workload, and eventually he's going to break through. Portland did a great job wrapping him up. He did have a couple of long runs, but they were early on in the game. But let's talk about that last series for Portland. Ezekiel Love with this amazing run, and it looked like he was going to score, worried that they were going to score too early because then if they go up 31-30, then Jackman has a chance to win the game with a field goal. So they had a 1st and goal at the 4, and they just couldn't get in. They just couldn't convert. Another nail-biting loss for Portland to Denver, and Portland's got to feel pretty frustrated now. 2-5 on the heels of back-to-back one-possession home losses. Pretty devastating. They could be 4-3 right now.
Yeah, Portland definitely have to be kicking themselves tonight, but I'll tell you what, they have everything to be proud of in the way that they played Denver the past 2 seasons. They're the one team that has given Denver everything that they can handle up until almost the last snap of the game in 2 seasons in a row. And as you alluded to the last series there, Ezekiel Love had a huge game today, 154 yards and a touchdown, a huge 80-yard touchdown run right before halftime to give Portland the lead, and almost a huge touchdown right there at the end to put them ahead to try to win this game. But on the last 2 plays of the game, Portland decides to pass the ball.
Yeah.
Had 2 late, incompletions there, threw into the end zone, batted away at the end. Maybe if they give it to Zeke there on the goal line, maybe things are different today.
Yeah, they did give it to him on 3rd and goal, but he was unable to get in. They also gave it to him on 4th and 5 in the 4th quarter, and he was able to convert. So that when they used him, he delivered, and then when they didn't, and that just goes to show the limitations of that offense, and it cost them again today. DC, congratulations. They get their first victory, 38-28. They go to Lone Star and beat Lone Star, who was playing this game. I mean, we saw it last year. Vancouver lost their tribute game to Rich Pratchett after he passed away suddenly, but Rich Pratchett scored a touchdown. In this game, you thinking Lone Star is going to be riding high. For those that didn't see, Evan Lacey, the free safety for Lone Star, named after actually Lacey Sr.'s son, who was tragically killed as just a high school kid. And he played high school football for Seguin High in Arlington, Texas. And so they wore his his high school uniforms tonight, and tributed him in this game, and that was obviously pretty special. But DC came in; they didn't care. They went up 21-0. Well, it's not that they didn't care. I shouldn't say that, but the game plan did not call for them to just hand the win to Lone Star. They really came out, played very hard, went up 21-0, and then insanity ensued. Mike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a very emotional night up in Denton tonight, Cam, as you mentioned. But as you mentioned, they DC. They came in saying, "Hey, we're 0-6. We need a win. We're right there with you. We're emotionally there with you." As actually Ben Fieldwar, Evan Lacey's son's number tonight, to show respect to them as well. But DC came out, on fire, 21-0, and was up 24-0. I'm sorry, 24-7 at half in this game. But then all of a sudden, Evan Lacey, gets an interception, and then the game turns from 21-0, 24-7. Then all of a sudden, Lone Star couldn't do anything wrong. Cam Collier had a touchdown to get it closer. Brian Craven had a big interception. Deuce Finnick had a couple of touchdown catches, and before you know it, now Lone Star's come all the way back, and they're up 28-24. So, great performance. Emotional night by Evan Lacey to help his team as best he can, but they just seem to come. They came up short in the end.
I'll tell you a play in this game that's not going to get a lot of talk, or not going to make a highlight reel. Lone Star scores 21 unanswered, goes up 28-24. On the ensuing kickoff, DC fumbles, and they recovered it. Mm-hmm. Now, what would have happened in this game if Lone Star would have recovered that? Could it have been a landslide that DC could not recover from? We'll never know. It's a game of inches, Mike. DC caught a break there and settled down and was able to pull this one out. Lone Star didn't score after that.
Yeah, that was a big play in this game. And as I failed to mention in my first comments of this game, Kevin Say had a huge game tonight. 185 yards, 8 yards per carry, a couple of touchdowns that really, and up until this point in the second half of this fumble that you're speaking of, I'd mentioned to you behind the scenes that, hey, Kevin Say hadn't seen the ball much in the second half,
right.
if at all. And then I think on this one particular drive, that's when they got him going again, scored a 1 yard touchdown run, and they were able to close the game out from there.
Yeah, for sure. He had a big game. It kind of felt like a breakout game, like a star mm-hmm. is really emerging here mm-hmm. With Kevin Say. Let's shift to Mexico City. They get a huge win, 48-35 over Tulsa, to improve quietly to 5-2. Every time they get inside the 10-yard line, they score touchdowns. This mm-hmm. team is unbelievably efficient. They have lots of weapons. And for whatever reason, people just keep writing them off. They're just not really getting a lot of press. We're giving them some press tonight. While Tulsa did manage to put up 5 touchdowns, I think Tyler Falk and Gerald Giudice were on the call. I think they said Mexico City's defense had 11 pass deflections. I mean, they were everywhere.
Yeah, this is definitely the fly under the radar team, at least for me up until this point. Mexico City, they've always won. They're steady. No one, make a big deal about them being 4-2. That because it's expected. You expect Mexico City to be this good. If they weren't producing this way, they would be on our radar for the wrong reasons, because they're 1-5 or 2-4 or something like that. But when they're 4-2, 5-2 after tonight, we didn't think much about them. But hey, I think Mexico City said, hey, pay attention to us. We are definitely a force to be reckoned with in this league. And as you mentioned, they score every time they get inside the 10-yard line. And a lot of that reason is because of Phoenix Jones. Not a huge game statistically, only 63 yards rushing, but he did have 3 touchdowns, all of them inside the 5-yard line there.
And we can't forget about Ray Bentley blocking for him either. He's opening up all those lanes. And that Mexico City-Fort Worth game still looms. on the schedule. That is going to be a monster game in the South, in which, going back to Lone Star real quick, the big loser of the day. Lone Star goes to 3-4. Houston beats Louisiana, goes to 4-3. Mexico City's now 5-2. Fort Worth will still maintain the division lead, even if they lose tomorrow against Arizona. But still, Lone Star's falling behind and falling quickly. They're going to need to turn that around. For Tulsa, not the end of the world. St. Louis lost today. Their second straight loss. So they're still just 2 games back of the division lead. We'll see what happens with Atlanta against Baltimore. And then Louisiana lost too. So not the worst day for Tulsa in the loss. And JQ, after a shaky start, he didn't look too bad. He still made some pretty impressive throws. And but Tulsa is 3-4, and their 3-game winning streak has been snapped.
Yeah, I will say this about JQ. Yeah, he had impressive numbers at the end of the day. 448 yards, 4 touchdown passes. But what came up to bite him today, which would bit him in early in the season,
right,
when they were dropping 3 in a row, the turnover bug kind of got him today. But it's a tough Mexico City team, as you mentioned, talented on both sides of the ball, and it kind of caught up with Tulsa tonight.
Okay, Mike, game balls. Who you got?
Well, Cam, I'm going to find
you sounded like Eddie Gage with that. Well, Cam, that was classic Gage.
I'm going to go to obscure tonight. I'm going to take a page out of your book. I mean, it was some great performances today. We could have gone several different ways with a lot of the more popular names and things like that, but I'm going to go J.W. Doyle for my first game ball. That game against St. Louis for Florida was basically anybody's ball game up until 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden, J.W. Doyle with a big touchdown catch and a huge 50-yard-plus-yard run. And all of a sudden, Florida's up a couple of scores, and they won that game tonight because of J.W. Doyle.
That's a great one. That's I wouldn't call that obscure at all. Scored 2 touchdowns. You get a fullback some love. Good job, Mike. I have to go Evan Lacy. Not because of the tribute, but because he led all players with 8 solo tackles. He had an interception in the end zone that turned the tide of that game. He absolutely laid out a receiver coming across the middle for Lone Star. For DC that forced a 4th down. He hurt Kevin Say so bad he didn't come back in the game. That he just made play after play after play after play tonight, and not to mention, he made a tackle on Jeff Banfield early in the game. Yes, DC still scored the touchdown, but he saved at that time a touchdown by making that tackle. Lacy had a great game tonight, even though Lone Star did not, and my game ball goes to Evan Lacy.
Oh, definitely a great pick. Emotional night for them, as we mentioned, and he definitely left everything out on the field tonight.
All right, who's your next one, Mike?
Next game ball is my aforementioned Phoenix Jones. Like I said, not a huge game statistically far as numbers go, far as yardage goes. But yeah, 3 huge touchdowns on 16 carries, 63 yards. And that brings his season total on the ground to 13 rushing touchdowns. And I think he has 14 total for the season to lead the SFL. So Phoenix Jones, huge performance tonight. Helped Mexico City win this game. That he gets my second game ball.
My last game ball, I'm going to go Tom Pepper, because Pepper last week suffered just a terrible blow to his MVP season by throwing a pick at the end of regulation, and then on his very next play, a pick in overtime. So his last 2 throws from last week were interceptions that lost Vancouver the game. What does Vancouver do at Jacksonville? Loses of 3 in a row. They come out, they say, you know what? Rear view mirror. We're going to attack. We're going to be the aggressor. And Pepper was on the money. ... all night long. I don't believe he threw a pick. Did he throw a pick in this game, Mike?
Cam, as I move closer to the microphone, there were a lot of great performances tonight, but yeah, you had to pick Tom. Yeah, he had a great game and all, but you just had to pick Tom tonight.
I gotta
Right.
I gotta give the guy credit. He bounced back. He bounced back from and played a great game. So I gotta
Yeah.
give him
Yeah.
a
Hats off.
and I don't think that he threw a pick tonight. So
No, he didn't. He didn't throw a pick tonight. But now hats off. Hats off to Tom. Hey, he had a great game. 440. I'm sorry, 421 tonight. 3 touchdowns. Huge game. No picks. And another, back-to-back week of 400 yards. But like I said, last week the picks plagued him. This week he avoided that. Vancouver played a great game against Jacksonville earlier tonight, and they came away with the victory.
Vancouver on pace for the most passing yards in a season in the last 5 seasons in the SFL. They are on fire and now improved to 4-3. Full slate of games tomorrow, Sunday, 4:30 Eastern is the start on For the Fans. Mike and I will see you there. And for now, we got to get some sleep. This has been Game Day Wrap Up, and we'll see you tomorrow.